Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be going solo today, going through the MLB slate. I'm going to do both DraftKings and Fanduel. I had a pretty good day yesterday, actually, specifically on Fanduel. I did okay on DraftKings as well, but the Cubs really came through nicely for me. So there was that was good. So today, again, I'm going to do the same thing that I usually do. Is I'm going to go. I'm going to do kind of a top-down approach to this because a couple of decisions are pretty easy, and just give you my overall slate view, and then I'm going to, highlight some stacks that I'm kind of targeting and things like that. We'll get into more detail as we when we do the live thing a little bit later, because then I'll have my ownerships a little bit down as well. Because right now I really don't have. I have really early ownerships, but nothing I would want to rely on right now. So again, from a process perspective, I run my numbers here, and with respect to the pitchers on, going to look at DK first. I mean, there's just a huge standout at both first and second, and that being Garrett Cole and Andrew Heaney. Cole's against the Tigers and Heaney's against the Mariners, and they're both underpriced, and they just rate way above everybody else. And it seems kind of weird in a 14-game slate to say that, especially on a slate where you have guys like Bieber and Darvish and McCullers, things like that. And even you can make a case for Peralta as having strikeout upside, although his matchup's not very good. But these guys stand out to such degree that I think I'm just going to just play these two. That's where I'm at as far as like for now. So what I think would be interesting then is, is to go through the stacks and see what that looks like. Because if there's a really chalky stack along with the two chalky pitchers, I presume this is going to be the chalk combination. That we gotta have to figure out some way to play where we kind of separate. So again, this is a really big gap for me. So Cole and Heaney are going to be the pitchers. With respect to Fanduel, by the way, it's a little less clear. You still have Cole as a big, pretty big top pitcher, but you could play Heaney on Fanduel also, and you'll see there's like a little bit of a closer gap to the third pitcher here. So McCullers you can make a case for as being the pay down option on Fanduel. I would not pay up for Darvish or Bieber. I just feel as though Cole is just so much a better play that I think Bieber and Darvish are just not the way to go. If you're going to play, if you're going to pay up, you play Cole. If you do want to pay down a little bit, if you don't want to play Heaney, you could try to pivot and go to McCullers. If that helps. Now, with respect to the stacks, and I'm just pulling up my stack tool here, and one of these days when we launch the site, you guys are going to hopefully have access to this. I'm going to rank these guys. This is on DK via a combination of value and raw points, and you'll see that it's actually a lot of guys, a lot of teams are really close, which is good. So between the Yankees, the Braves, the Toronto, Colorado, and Tampa, all these guys, at least from a value perspective, and the Mets, look to be really solid. So if any of these teams come in kind of lower owned, you might want to try it. Like right now, I have the lowest owned team in this range by a lot as being Tampa. So maybe Tampa would be a good way to go. Because if you go all the way up to the Yankees, well, I do think Yankees are better than Atlanta. So again, like if this ownership held, then although the Yankees would be a little bit higher, they're actually going to be much lower owned than Atlanta apparently. But again, this is very early, and so right now I'd probably play the Yankees over Atlanta, and then I would probably then go with either Colorado or Tampa. The problem is you don't know if you're going to need these guys. So like for example. And then I'll show you what you can do. Let's say you played Cole along with Heaney, for example. Where is he? It's such a big slate. I can't believe there's going to be such chalk, and you got to wait all the way to the end. So let's say that you were going to play, the Tampa guys. that I put in. Is it even you even saving anything? In other words, what if, where's Tampa? Let me see. Oh my God, such a big slate. You got to scroll 3 times. So if you play Tampa and you wanted to play, again, assuming all these guys are in, so a Rosarena, Meadows, Lau, who was the other guy I had? Phillips, or Kiermaier. Oh, so both these guys are 2K. I mean, this is that's why this is happening. And let's just say we're going to play those 4, and for example, I mean, yeah, I mean, it does actually save you. You could then pair them with a more high-priced option, okay, such as maybe the Yankees, and make that work. So yeah, it does actually benefit you to play the Tampa. What I was going to say is no need to save money just for the sake of saving money if that doesn't help you elsewhere. But if you have these other expensive stacks, such as, you know, Atlanta, you know, let's say you wanted to try to play, you know, just again, for example, Acuna, who's now priced down. You have Azuna at 5K, and then let's say you just want to get all this in, right? I don't know if I want to play Freeman against Robbie Ray. That seems like a kind of a tough bit of business. Ray's usually very strong against lefties. And then if you wanted to stack all of this, it's like impossible, right? So that's why, you know, Atlanta, I couldn't even do a 5-man stack there, even if I wanted to. The only thing I'd have to do is probably, you know, and this probably would make sense to take out Freeman. But even still, I mean, like, look at how little money you have left over. Like if you played Riley, I mean, then what would make this work, by the way, if you did that, is you could play like Kiermaier, for example, as like a one-off from Tampa at 2K, or the other guy, who's the other Tampa guy who's going to be 2K, Phillips at 2K. None of those guys are any great shakes, but Kiermaier's been hitting in leadoff, and he's been doing just fine. So you could play Atlanta as well, but you really, playing Freeman might be asking for it. With respect to the Yankees, I just want to see what it looks like. So if we put in the guys I'd want to play in the Yankees, which would probably be, let's say Judge is playing, just for the sake of argument. Stanton, Hicks, Urshela maybe, and Torres. So if we did that, I mean, you could do it, you know. So it does beg the question, is what do we need to stack Tampa for? You know, like if you could play like these higher priced guys, you know, why do you really need to stack Tampa? Because from a raw points perspective, you know, Tampa's not going to rate as high. Like, for example, let me pull this over. And again, this is not what you're used to. This is kind of the way I do it. So this is what you get today. So if we rank these just by raw points, I mean, Tampa's probably not going to be anywhere near here, right? You have to go all the way down. So we already showed that you could probably get Atlanta and the Yankees in, you know? So maybe you don't need to go to Tampa to make all this work. So even though Tampa would necessarily be probably one of the great values alongside of like low ownership, just the chances of it actually putting up enough raw points to make that work is not all that great. The Mets are interesting because the Mets are actually pretty close to this top group as far as raw points. And then also when I search by value, they're pretty close over here, all right? So let's see what a stack with the Mets would just look like, right? Again, we're all talking with the same build here with the same pitching combination. So here, and again, you know, the Mets against righties are always what you want to do anyway. So let's say you wanted to go Smith, Conforto, Nemo, JD Davis, right? Or McNeil, either way. So let's put in, where's JD Davis? JD Davis at third base, and then we could always put in Alonso because we always put Alonso, or Lindor, right? So let's put in Lindor right now, and we will not put in. No, let's not put in Dom Smith. Instead, let's put in, for example, Alonso. Can you do that? Yeah, I mean, you could do it. I mean, it's not that easy. but I mean, you can find good 3K guys to play, right? So again, question goes back to, do you need to play a team like Tampa just because they're good value per se? Probably not. You know, because you can get those raw points out of these other squads. So we looked at the Mets a little bit. And again, let me go back to this grid to kind of show you the way I visualize this. So I'm looking for teams that show up as both values and in raw points. So here, Tampa, we said, didn't have enough raw points. What about Colorado or Toronto? Let's take a look and see what those guys look like in terms of raw points. So Toronto looks good. So let's see what that type of stack would look like. And again, I'm sure we could get that in the same way that we can get in the other ones. It's just a matter of finding kind of good, kind of semi-cheap one-offs, but you could always find something good. See, the whole point of this is that none of this is going to be relevant until we put ownership on top of this. Because if any of these guys, teams that I mentioned, end up being really high owned, then it's just not going to be worth it. The problem with this one, these guys are way too expensive. You're never going to be able to get these guys in, I don't think. Simeon, Richick, whatever. I mean, I can always tell where we're headed here. Let me just research. Well, we don't need, if you don't play Guerrero, let's say you want to play Gurriel, for example, at 3,400, you could do that. And then you could play Biggio. Is he second base? No, he's outfield. So you could play Biggio over here, or you could play him third base. It's probably better. So you could certainly do this. But again, it's a little hard, but you can get these guys in. So, you know, these are the different types of teams that I will attack today. And that's my process, the way I kind of go into it. Now, I'm not exactly like Bobby with respect to my approach. I mean, I do want to stack 5-man in these 14-game slates just because it's just that likely that somebody's going to get there. They're going to blow up the slate. So I just want to have exposure to as many 5-gamers or 5-teamers as possible. That makes sense. So went over a couple of them. I mean, we didn't actually just build the Colorado ones, but you're talking about Crone, Story, Blackman, Hampton, Diaz, guys like that. But when we get there later, we'll talk more about ownership and when I do the live thing, and we'll be able to get a little bit better. With respect to FanDuel, do you want me to do FanDuel? I'll do like one with FanDuel just for the hell of it. And I'll just show, and we'll just see what FanDuel looks like, okay? So FanDuel, let's just say, again, that we were going to play Cole. And again, if we were going to pay down for Haney, we'd have to have a good reason for it. And you can tell we could always have a good reason for it because, see, Cole, excuse me, he requires you then to play $28.50 a man, which is not necessarily ideal. When we rank these guys, again, we'd like to play the Yankees if possible. And if so, I mean, if you played the guys that you wanted to play, such as, well, Torres is cheap. Maybe you can do all this stuff. And then let's just say you try to pay up just to hell of it. Judge, Stanton, and let's say you paid up. Let's say played LeMahieu. You know, you could still even do it, you know, if you find another good value piece. I bet you, like, for example, the Mets. Mets would be my next favorite, by the way. I bet you some of these Mets are cheap enough where you could play them. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. You can't really play Alonso, but you could certainly go ahead and play, you know, Conforto, somebody like that. I think J.D. Davis, he's cheap? No, he was 3,100. McNeil is 2,600. You could play him, right? It's a little hard. It's a little hard. So you might want to look for some values over on FanDuel. So let me just take a look at the FanDuel stack tool here, and let me see what that looks like. So again, the Yankees look like the top. The Yankees a little, see, on FanDuel, I just have 4 stacks that kind of separate themselves. So it's going to be the Yankees, the Mets, Colorado, and Cincy. So I imagine the Colorado and the Cincy would end up being the cheapest. Well, let's see what it looks like again when we search from a raw perspective. Colorado. So Colorado looks to be good for both value and raw. So let's let's take a look and see what that that kind of looks like. So if you played the Yankees, well, hold on, let's put Torres back in. Hold on. Say you play Torres. So the guys I wanted to play on Colorado, if these guys all fit in nicely, that would be obviously ideal, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So Colorado, first base, I would want to play Crone. Oh, he's 3K. All right, so you're not going to be able to play, I think, the Yankees with Colorado. And this is with Cole, right? If you went down to Haney, you could get away with this. Let me just see what this looks like. Let me see what this looks like. Let's say you played Crone, and then let's say, yeah, they priced these guys pretty good, man. These are pretty expensive. These are like almost as expensive as the Yankees, which is very surprising to me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can do this. They're really expensive, but you know, the value rankings don't lie, man. I mean, Colorado, they look pretty good. So maybe I'll try to force these guys in. That would be kind of amazing. But obviously, as you've been able to kind of tell by whatever, if you did want to play Haney instead, then I mean, the world opens up for you, right? Then you could play, for example, Colorado with almost all the Yankees you want, right? I mean, you could play Stanton. Well, you probably wouldn't want. Well, you'd want to play Torres, so you'd have to put him in the in the utility spot if you wanted to play Story along with him. But I mean, look at that. I mean, like if you use Haney, I mean, you could literally play whoever you want. So that is something to consider. What else do I have? I think for an early look, I think this is pretty fair. I'll try to come back on live at 6 o'clock to go over more in depth, especially with ownership and things like that. But I did want you to at least have an overview of the slate, where I think things are going to go. And yeah, I hope to see you guys later on.